Hi there, and welcome to What's Up. John Petersen here from the Arlington Institute, and every 2 weeks, Gregg, Braden, and I get together to just chat for a half an hour, and we're happy that you've come and joined us here today. And so, Gregg, what's up?
Wow, John, I want to say it's good to see you. I'm excited to be back in the swing of things here with our program. You know, there are so many things in the world that we could talk about, but I'm aware that you recently went to a conference on energy, alternative forms of
Yeah.
energy, things like that. And I'm really interested if you have the freedom, if you can, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this. Can you share a little bit about what happened at the conference so we can talk about that a
Yeah,
little
well,
bit?
it's nice of you to bring that up. I just came back from a 5,000-mile road trip. As a
Oh,
matter
wow.
of fact, driving from West Virginia up to Spokane, Washington, by way of Carson City, Nevada. And the Energy Science and Technology Conference is held every year up somewhere around Spokane. It's been in Coeur d'Alene most of the time, but it's now over in Spokane. And what it is essentially carrying on uh, the research and the principles and the inventions of Nikola Tesla. But are the leading lights and the very leading edge of this kind of what certainly is a revolution in energy, which is going to allow over unity energy to be able to make electricity in particular without any kind of fuel of any kind. The thing that encourages me about it, Gregg, is that the this new world that is going to evolve is by definition new, right? And so, as you've suggested, the most fundamental aspects of how we live and are energy. And so you don't get to a new world without a kind of a new energy kind of thing. And so this is very fundamental to that and very important.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, John. This is unscripted. This is the first time you and I have had the
Yeah,
opportunity to talk
sure.
about it.
Our mutual friend Hal Puthoff has got an invention, a patented invention that he's developing and commercializing now that's good as a scalar communications device, which is something larger than a cell phone. One of the problems associated with it is that you've got to have kind of liquid nitrogen in it to keep the chip at a certain kind of temperature. But
Mm.
this device will literally instantaneously communicate through the earth to any other place in the earth or any place else for that matter. And Hal has been careful to build relationships so that this will not just be classified and used by the military, but it'll be available. And so maybe in a year or two, you'll have a phone where you can literally talk to the aliens and doesn't make any difference where they are.
You know, it's so interesting, John, because there's so many different principles that are at work here. So Tesla's work was capturing the potential of resonant frequencies for our planet. And one of the questions always was, if we develop this technology tuned to the Earth, what would it mean if we went to the moon or if we went to Mars? Would the technology work? Would it have to be retuned?
Hmm.
But then I have other friends, researchers, and physicists who are working with other forms of energy that are tapping into the what's called the Planck vacuum
Yeah.
or the quantum vacuum, and they see that as separate from what Tesla was doing and what I believe is probably going to happen. And I think the part of Tesla's work that was so one of the parts that I think is so powerful and so meaningful today is he he took the idea of these resonant coils, and we're very familiar with primary and secondary coils, but he began using tertiary coils, and rather than cylindrical, he began building the conical coils, which creates a completely different field that allows the energy to be stepped up from very small scales into meaningful, commercially meaningful scales. And I think that may be ultimately where we go is that there'll be a merging of Tesla technology in terms of being able to take the the Planck vacuum kinds of energy and boosting it into meaningful levels on a commercial scale using the Tesla technology, but it's not using the Tesla energy generation the way that he had envisioned it. But there's historic precedent for the technologies that you're talking about. My very first trip to Egypt was 1986, and Egypt was very different, much less regulated then than certainly it is now. And while Giza certainly was interesting to me, I was really fascinated. And one of the first places I went was Saqqara, which is very mysterious, very anomalous in some respects, to the Sphinx and the pyramids and things like that. And there was a tomb, a temple slash tomb in Saqqara where my guide was a member of Sadat's cabinet before Sadat was assassinated. And the reason I say that is because we had a lot of privileges that were given to us through his affiliations with the Department of Antiquities. So we went into a tomb, and it was one of the places where Napoleon's army had forced open the tomb. And to their amazement, underground, the place was completely lit up. And the way it was lit was through spheres that were glowing apparently for thousands of years because the tomb had been sealed with no apparent source of energy, and they were up on pedestals. Well, what happened is when the soldiers and the horses went into the tomb, they knocked over these pedestals and they broke, but the remnants are still there. So you could see it was a form of glass, but it was a thick glass. It wasn't like what we see today. And the thinking was that it was some rarefied gas that was in resonance, tuned to, and the structure was allowing a resonance with Earth's fundamental frequency, 7.83 hertz ish, the way that Tesla had talked about. And this is one of the few places where we actually see physical remnants, and then you can see the writing from the historians saying this is what happened before they were broken. Now, my question, there are other chambers that have not been opened in other parts of Egypt, and I'm wondering if any of those are still remaining, but the principle is certainly there. Yeah. And we had some very interesting people in the audience, and one of them was from the U.S. Patent Office. And he came up to me during the break, and we spent about 15 minutes in conversation. And I learned a lot from him in those 15 minutes. And one of the things I learned, John, and we talk about energy, that the patents can only be awarded if there are two principles that are in place. And that is the patent must be based upon previously known and acknowledged technology. So right there it says if your gadget is working in a way that we don't understand, you can't get a patent. If it's not based on what we already know, number one. Number two, it must be able to be replicated by anyone. So not somebody that has special powers, to intervene, but anyone, if they know how to run the gadget, they should be able to duplicate what it does. Right there, that eliminates a lot of this new technology from the patent circuit. But you don't necessarily need the patent.
But that doesn't make it a national security issue. And so those things that possibly that you could replicate and, and so on, but they haul those off for national security reasons.
Wow. Well, it's a fascinating conversation, John. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about the conference. Well, I think when disclosure runs its course, we're in the middle of it now in some respects, but when you see more of the disclosure, I think there'll be more freedom.
That's a very interesting wrinkle that I hadn't thought about, because what that does is then just changes the kind of twists the whole system, that suddenly opens up the possibility of it legitimates strange things.
Well, John Petersen, I love the way you think, and I appreciate you sharing a little bit about this conference with us today.
Thank you, Greg, and we'll come back and we'll do this all again on What's Up in another couple of weeks. And
look forward to our next. Very much.
And
thank you.
To our viewers, thank you, and come back and be with us, and you can find out much more about the Arlington Institute and some of the things that we're doing at arlingtoninstitute.org. And we look forward to having you with us the next time. Thanks.